Hello and welcome. Today I'm joined by Paul Brett-Smith from PBS Independent Financial Advisors. Now, Paul has been a mortgage advisor in this town for a lot of years, but I'm going to straight away say over to Paul, introduce yourself and let them know a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thanks Michelle. My name's Paul Brett-Smith of PBS Independent Financial Advisors. We're celebrating 15 years this year.
15,
I've been
wow.
in Lancaster, probably 10 years before that when I was working elsewhere. We're in Lancaster.
Perfect. So Paul, myself and Paul go a long way back, working together, back to, when you pretty much started out, don't we? Today I wanted to chat with Paul about what's happening in the mortgage market, because obviously a lot of people are aware that interest rates went up last week. But I wanted to put some context to that, and who better than get an expert in. So Paul, last week interest rates rose by 0.25%. You were telling me earlier what that actually means, and to understand more about what it means, I think we've got to look not that far backwards.
No, you're right on that. So the Bank of England base rate went up by 0.25% last week, as you said. They convene every 6 weeks and make a decision on that. And a lot of people might have noticed that the last 3 meetings it has gone up, and they've made 3 increases. But I think you need to go back before that and go back 2 years probably. So pre-pandemic, the base rate was at 0.75%, and that's where we are today. When the pandemic started and COVID came out, the Monetary Policy Committee made the decision to slash interest rates down to 0.1%, which was historically an all-time low. Since then, inflation's been increasing, so they use interest rates to try and keep a control of inflation, keep it low and steady. So it's no surprise that they've moved the base rate to 0.25 to 0.5% and now to 0.75%. And most economic forecasts expect the base rate to maybe increase another 0.5% throughout 2020 and end the year at 1.25%.
Okay, to give it some context, on the screen now I'm just showing you a graph that Paul shared with me earlier, and it actually shows exactly where it was pre-pandemic, what happened and where we are today. And as you can see, there literally is hardly any difference to, as Paul says, just 2 years ago. So Paul, of course, when interest rates go up, people do have a little bit of panic out there. And as you've explained, there really is no need. But one question that we've been asked is, what does this mean for people who've got a mortgage offer already?
Okay, so if people have got a mortgage offer already, it shouldn't hopefully affect them. When you put your application into a mortgage lender, that is when you will secure the interest rate with that lender. So if you've got your mortgage offer issued by them, your application's been approved, and your mortgage offer is normally valid with most lenders for a period of 6 months. So as long as you complete on your purchase on that mortgage within that 6 months, that rate is still valid. Okay.
Perfect. How about those people who are now house hunting and they've got their agreement in principle, or as you call it, a DIP? Decision
in principle, agreement in principle, the same things. People call them, and different lenders call them different things. If you've got an agreement in principle, a decision in principle, your interest rate isn't guaranteed or secured in most cases. So when you find a property and you then come to submit your application, it's what interest rates are at that time. So there's a good chance that the interest rate and the agreement principle, when you've looked originally where to get that from, that rate may have changed along with other lenders. So when you come to find that house, unfortunately, you're probably going to need to do your work again to look at what the best deal is.
Okay, that brings me across to something I want to feature each time we chat. So back in the day of newspapers, Paul worked for a mortgage company, I worked in the newspaper, and there was a regular article of basically mortgage rate of the week. Now, as Paul explained to me earlier, every person's situation is different.
Exactly right, yeah.
Okay, so we thought we'd have a look at some headlines to see what deals are out there, but then of course Paul would work out the exact best deal for your situation. So, number one, I've got a first-time buyer, 5% deposit, looking to buy at £130,000. I believe there's a great headline rate out there, but there's other options. And how does that compare?
Okay, yeah. So First-time buyers with a 5% deposit are actually in a better position than what they were 12 to 18 months ago.
That's crazy.
2-year fixed rates starting in the region of around about 2.45%, so 2.5%. If we went back 2 years ago, there was limited lenders in that marketplace and the rate would have been about 3.99%, 4%. We were really struggling at 95% mortgages. So that's where rates start. Obviously, we've got to take in consideration what arrangement fees there may be for lenders. So it's not always a headline rate. It's about the overall deal.
Perfect. So you see, if you are a first-time buyer, chat to Paul. Please do not panic. Right. Number 2 is actually a buy-to-let landlord. Again, genuine client. We've just sold a property, £130,000, to a buy-to-let landlord who says he's got a 20% deposit. What would be a great option for him?
Okay, so buy-to-let mortgages with a 20% deposit, there are options available, but there is a limited number of lenders in that marketplace. So with a 20% deposit, probably looking at a 2-year fixed rate about 2.87% for a 2-year deal, and a 5-year deal probably around about 3.09%. But my advice to that person would be to potentially look at getting a further 5% deposit, give them a 25% deposit. In buy-to-let terms, mortgages, there's a lot more lenders with a 25% deposit. More competition means interest rates are substantially lower. So by having that extra 5%, you'll see the interest rate come down by nearly 1%. Okay,
that's quite considerable.
It is. It's a big margin. So a 2-year fixed rate will probably be about 1.87% currently, and a 5-year deal about 2.14%. So for investors, it really is important, my advice generally, to have a 25% deposit.
Okay, 25% deposit. You heard it from Paul himself. Right, my final one is the home mover. So the home mover is somebody who sold their house, they've got equity built in it, and they're moving on to the next property. If we've got a home mover with a 40% deposit, looking to buy around 250, where do we stand?
Okay, so they are in a good position in terms of the amount of equity they've got moving on. So they'll be looking at the headline rates, the best deals, the best options out there. You're probably looking at a 2-year fixed rate in the region about 1.85%, okay, which is, compared to 2 years ago, higher. We were looking at rates more closer to 1%. That was the lowest I've ever seen them. But if you look at a 5-year fixed rate now, you're probably looking at around about 1.97. So the difference between a 2-year fixed for them and a 5-year fixed is marginal. So it depends on their circumstances, goals, plans, but it could be a good opportunity to fix for a longer period of time because there's no or little difference between a 2 and a 5-year fixed.
Perfect. So if anybody has any questions about mortgages, Paul really is your expert and he has a superb team over at PBS. But also, if you've got any questions you'd like to ask Paul, please message the page, call the office, drop us an email, and we'll feature them in next month's Mortgage Matters. Anything you want to say, Paul, before we go?
No, thank you very much for your time. And so, yeah, any questions, feel free to come back. Obviously, rates are subject to change. But that's our job to keep an eye on.
Okay, and the number below on the screen is for Paul's office, not ours, so you can get through directly to him. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.